The warning. No one told you about regarding garlic. You've heard someone say that garlic is the most powerful food for the heart, right? Throughout my career, in the cold operating rooms and the silent cardiology offices, I've seen this belief repeated like a mantra among patients over 60. Doctor, I eat garlic every day. It cleanses the blood. And in fact, garlic has extraordinary medicinal properties. It helps control cholesterol, improves circulation, and fights inflammation. But what almost no one knows is that, when combined with certain foods, it can turn into something completely opposite. A silent agent of intoxication that overloads the liver, alters blood clotting, and causes small internal inflammations that an elderly person's body has increasing difficulty reversing. In recent decades, studies on food interactions have advanced greatly, and what science has been showing is worrying. Garlic, when mixed with some specific foods, changes its behavior inside the body. It stops being the protector of the arteries and starts acting as a catalyst for toxic chemical reactions, especially in those who already have a slow metabolism or a liver overloaded by medications. It's as if, inside your body, something seemingly healthy joins with what you've always considered harmless. And together they form a substance capable of irritating your cells and thickening the blood, increasing the risk of high blood pressure, clots, and even cardiac arrhythmias. I know it may sound strange, even alarming, but it's necessary to talk about this. Many well-intentioned elderly people are mixing these foods every day without imagining what's happening inside. They believe they are strengthening their immune system, when in reality they are causing a cumulative effect, an accumulation of substances that the liver tries to eliminate, but can no longer do so with the same efficiency as before. And that's precisely where the subtle symptoms begin. The slight dizziness after breakfast, the sensation of sudden heat, the heavy stomach, the unexplained variations in blood pressure. I've seen this happen dozens of times in the office. Patients who swore they were doing everything right, using garlic on an empty stomach, mixing it with other natural foods, but who showed clear signs of hepatic stress and changes in the blood. The body always warns, but it speaks subtly. The problem is that, as the years pass, the sensitivity to hear these signals decreases. The pain moves around, the fatigue is confused with age, and what is a warning turns into routine. Therefore, this video is a warning. Not for you to stop using garlic, but for you to know when and with what it should not be mixed. In the next few minutes, I'm going to show you exactly what happens inside your body when garlic comes into contact with these two foods, and why this combination can become toxic. You will understand why your body reacts differently after 60, and what to do to use garlic correctly, taking advantage of its benefits without taking unnecessary risks. But before continuing, I want to know from you. Comment here your age and the city where you are watching me from. It's important for me to understand who is on the other side of this conversation, because each decade of life requires different care for the heart. In the next moments, prepare to see garlic as you've never seen it before, not just as a seasoning, but as a living substance that can heal or harm, depending on how it's used. How the body changes after 60 and reacts differently to garlic. When the body passes 60 years, it is no longer the same organism that faced the excesses of youth with ease. Internal chemical reactions become slower, the production of digestive enzymes decreases, and the liver, that true laboratory of the body, begins to work with less efficiency. Each meal, each pill, each spoonful of seasoning ceases to be just a detail and begins to have a direct impact on blood pressure, heart rate, and even sleep. This is where the most common mistake I see among the elderly comes in. Continuing to eat as if the body was still the same as 20 years ago. Garlic, for example, contains sulfur compounds, such as allicin, which have strong antioxidant and vasodilating action. In young adults, the body can process these substances well, eliminating the excess easily. But in people over 60, the metabolism no longer deals with sulfur compounds and bioactive compounds with the same efficiency. The liver, slower, takes longer to convert and excrete these substances, and the blood, in turn, carries them for longer. The result is a silent overload, small vascular inflammations, stomach irritation, and a sensation of diffuse tiredness that many confuse with age, when in reality, It is a sign of internal imbalance. Imagine your body as an old house. The pipes, which are your arteries and veins, no longer have the same elasticity. Any more aggressive substance, even natural, can cause small corrosions or accumulations. The heart, which pumps this blood every day, needs to exert more force to push the liquid through tubes that no longer expand as easily. Now, add to that the daily use of medications for blood pressure, cholesterol, pain, or sleep, and you have a scenario in which the liver is always overloaded, trying to filter what comes in and what goes out. When garlic is combined with certain wrong foods, this overload multiplies, and what was meant to be a help becomes a burden. Another important point is the stomach. With advancing age, gastric acid decreases, and it is precisely this acid that helps the body break down the substances in garlic safely. When it is low, the sulfur molecules remain active longer and can react with other compounds present in foods, forming substances that irritate the intestinal mucosa and even alter the metabolism of certain medications. It's as if the fire of digestion were weaker and the food too raw ended up fermenting instead of being digested. The result: gas, heartburn, reflux, and in more serious cases, a slight increase in blood pressure caused by nerve stimulation. And all this happens silently. You eat, feel good for a few minutes, but 2 hours later you start to feel a slight heat in your head, a tingling, or even a discomfort that seems unexplained. The truth is that the body is reacting, trying to balance compounds that it used to handle, but now it can't. That's why, after 60, there is no more harmless food. Everything has an effect, and the difference between medicine and poison is in the dose, the combination, and the moment it is ingested. When garlic enters this equation, it can be both an ally of circulation and an enemy of the heart. It depends on what accompanies it on the plate. In the next few minutes, I'm going to show you exactly where the mistake is that most elderly people make with garlic. A mistake that seems small, but that alters the balance of the blood and interferes with the absorption of essential nutrients for the heart. You will understand why what has always been considered natural and healthy may in fact be masking a slow inflammation, and the worst part, without evident symptoms at the beginning. Prepare yourself, because what comes next is the kind of revelation that completely changes the way you look at your own breakfast or dinner. The hidden truth, the popular myth that turns garlic into a risk for decades. Garlic has been treated almost as a panacea, a natural remedy for all ills. It appears in home recipes, miraculous teas, and mixtures that promise everything from cleansing the blood to rejuvenating the veins. Many elderly people, driven by good intentions and popular wisdom, make daily use of these combinations, believing that because they are natural, they pose no risk. But in medicine, natural is not synonymous with safe. I often say to my patients, even water in excess can cause imbalance. And garlic, despite being a therapeutic food in small quantities, contains highly reactive chemical substances, such as allicin and diallyl sulfide, that interact with liver enzymes responsible for metabolizing medications and nutrients. When the body is young, this interaction goes unnoticed. But in an elderly organism, slower and more vulnerable, what should be a simple digestion reaction can become a small biochemical fire. The most dangerous myth is that the more garlic, the better. I have seen many elderly people taking garlic capsules, garlic tea, raw garlic with lemon, and even mixing crushed garlic in juices and vitamins. They believe they are strengthening their immune system, when in reality, they are creating a combination that irritates the digestive tract and can alter blood clotting. And when garlic is added to certain foods rich in specific compounds, such as heme-iron or oxidizing polyphenols, it stops acting as an antioxidant and starts generating free radicals, the exact opposite of what is sought. See, what makes garlic medicinal is the balance between its sulfur molecules and the body's natural antioxidants. But when this balance is disrupted, because of diet or age, the effect is reversed. It's as if the protector turned into an aggressor, and the body, without realizing it, begins to react in an inflammatory way with small changes in the blood and liver. A study published by American universities showed that excessive consumption of raw garlic in conjunction with foods rich in certain oxidized vegetable oils, can generate toxic compounds called lipid thioxides, substances that increase blood viscosity and irritate the walls of the arteries. And this is the point where the myth turns into real risk. Garlic, isolated and well used, is a gift from nature. But when combined with certain foods, especially those that also require intense work from the liver, it becomes a trigger for what we call hepatic oxidative stress, a dangerous condition for those who already have a history of high blood pressure, cholesterol, or diabetes. Think with me. The elderly by nature already have a slower liver and thicker blood. If every day they add to the body a mixture that further increases the density of the blood and irritates the liver cells, the result is inevitable. Small clots, blood pressure fluctuations, and silent inflammations begin to appear. And all this without pain, without warning, without evident symptoms. The mistake, therefore, is not in the garlic. It is in the way it is used, in the myth of quantity, and in the dangerous combinations that popular culture has been passing down from generation to generation. Some mix garlic with honey and lemon, thinking they are creating an elixir of immunity. Others beat raw garlic with milk, believing that this strengthens the bones. These practices, in addition to being without scientific basis, can generate unwanted chemical interactions inside the body, especially in those who take daily medications. In the next few minutes, I'm going to reveal exactly what these two foods are that, when combined with garlic, become a toxic mixture. And more importantly, I'm going to show you what happens inside your body when this occurs, from the first minute of digestion to the silent effects that manifest days later. You will realize that the danger is not in the kitchen, but in what the body tries to endure in silence. The villain revealed. The two foods that make garlic toxic. The moment has come to reveal what most people have never heard from a doctor, and perhaps don't even imagine could be dangerous. The two foods that, when combined with garlic, become potentially toxic to the body are milk and certain refined vegetable oils, especially soybean oil and corn oil. These mixtures are common in everyday life. Milk with garlic in homemade recipes for immunity, fried or toasted bread with margarine and garlic, or sautéed garlic immersed in vegetable oil. At first glance, they seem like simple and harmless practices. But inside the body, what happens is a true biochemical collision. Let's start with milk. It is a substance rich in casein and animal fat, two elements that make it difficult to absorb the sulfur compounds in garlic, the molecules responsible for its beneficial effects on the blood and arteries. When both are ingested together, the milk forms a kind of lipid barrier in the stomach, preventing a lichen and its derivatives from being metabolized correctly. What remains then is a partial chemical reaction, part of the garlic ferments, producing sulfur byproducts that are aggressive to the gastrointestinal tract. These byproducts can cause intestinal irritation, reflux, and liver overload, especially in people with slow digestion or who use continuous use medications. In the elderly, this effect is even more pronounced. The liver already works at a reduced pace, and the metabolism of fats is slower. The combination of milk with garlic forces the body to process two substances that demand different metabolic pathways, one lipidic and the other sulfurous. This internal competition causes an accumulation of intermediate compounds, which the body tries to eliminate through the blood. That's why some elderly people feel sudden heat, slight dizziness, or even palpitations after consuming homemade drinks of milk with garlic or milk with honey and garlic. It's not an allergy. It's the body trying to balance a mixture that it can't digest safely. Now the second villain, refined vegetable oils, such as soybean, corn, or industrial canola oil. These oils undergo heating and refining processes that generate free radicals and oxidized fatty acids, highly reactive substances. When garlic comes into contact with these oils during food preparation, its sulfur compounds react with the oxidized fats, forming what we call lipothioxides. These molecules, when they enter the bloodstream, irritate the endothelium, the inner lining of the vessels. And when this happens repeatedly, the blood becomes more viscous, the vessels lose elasticity, and the risk of clot formation increases. In simple words, what seems like just a sauté of garlic and oil inside the body behaves like a small inflammatory spark. With each meal, this spark repeats itself. And over the months and years, it turns into a slow fire that affects the cardiovascular system. It's no wonder that so many elderly people report a feeling of heaviness in the head, hot flashes, or palpitations after lunch. The body is reacting to the chemical overload. Many believe that soybean oil is lighter or healthier, but what really matters is its chemical state. A refined and reused oil becomes unstable, and when mixed with hot garlic, it creates an environment conducive to toxic reactions. It's different from extra virgin olive oil, which contains natural antioxidants and withstands heat better. Therefore, when someone asks me if they can fry garlic in olive oil, the answer is yes, as long as the olive oil is pure and the heat is low. But if it's common vegetable oil, it's best to avoid it, especially if you are over 60 and use continuous use medications. Milk and vegetable oil have something in common. Both make the liver's work difficult and alter the chemical behavior of garlic inside the body. And it is this sum of factors, the slow metabolism of age, the tired liver, and the wrong combinations, that transforms what was meant to be a protector of the heart into a silent threat. In the next few minutes, I'm going to take you inside your own body. I'm going to show you step by step what happens when you consume garlic with these foods, how the blood reacts, how the liver tries to compensate, and why this reaction is especially dangerous after 60 years. Thus, you will understand that it's not about being afraid of garlic, but about respecting the way the body changes over time. What happens inside the body when garlic becomes toxic? Imagine the moment when you consume a simple toast with garlic fried in soybean oil, or take that glass of warm milk with garlic, believing you are strengthening your body. At first glance, nothing seems wrong. The taste is familiar, the stomach accepts it, and the feeling is even of comfort. But inside your organism, a complex reaction begins. Silent, slow, and that, over the years, transforms into chronic inflammation. As soon as garlic enters the body, it releases compounds called organosulfur, especially allicin, diallyl disulfide, and S-allyl cysteine. These molecules are extremely active. They interact with proteins, lipids, and enzymes, helping to reduce cholesterol and keep the arteries flexible. However, when they come into contact with oxidized fats, such as those present in refined vegetable oils, or with milk proteins, these compounds transform. It's as if they lost their electrical balance and started to react uncontrollably. In the case of vegetable oils, the heat of preparation accelerates this process. The sulfur molecules in garlic react with the oxidized fatty acids, creating lipothioxides, substances that, when they enter the bloodstream, attach to the walls of the vessels. These lipothioxides are not eliminated quickly. They accumulate in the endothelium, the inner layer of the arteries, and irritate the tissue. The body, in defense, releases inflammatory substances such as cytokines and interleukins, and this process, repeated daily, causes microinflammations that decrease the elasticity of the vessels and increase the resistance of the blood to passage. With milk, the effect is different, but equally dangerous. The sulfur compounds in garlic need an acidic environment to be broken down and metabolized safely. However, the presence of casein and saturated fat in milk alters the pH of the stomach and prevents this breakdown from happening completely. As a result, unstable sulfur byproducts are formed: gases, volatile sulfides, and even small amounts of toxic amines. These substances pass through the intestine and reach the liver, where they should be neutralized. But in the elderly, the liver already works at its limit, processing medications, hormones, and food residues. Thus, what was meant to be filtered transforms into an irritating agent, which increases liver inflammation and affects the metabolism of fats and glucose. Visually, it's as if the blood, which should flow like a clear and serene river, began to thicken, to move more slowly, to carry invisible impurities. These microtoxins irritate the vessels, reduce the flow to the smaller capillaries, and affect the supply of oxygen to the heart and brain. That's why some elderly people report subtle symptoms after apparently simple meals: slight tiredness, blurred vision, slight palpitation, or a feeling of a hot head. Over time, the body tries to compensate. The liver increases the production of enzymes to try to neutralize the sulfur compounds, but this constant effort causes oxidative stress, a type of accelerated cellular wear. The kidneys, in turn, need to filter the excess of chemical residues, which further overloads the renal function. It's a silent cycle. Garlic, once an ally, now demands more from the body than it can offer. And there is an aggravating factor. In people who take anticoagulants, medications for cholesterol or blood pressure, this combination alters the action of the medications. Garlic has a natural blood-thinning effect, but when combined with lipothioxides or poorly digested sulfur compounds, it can generate the opposite effect, a denser and coagulated blood. The danger, then, is not only in the food, but in the drug interference that it causes without the patient realizing it. Over time, the result manifests as unstable blood pressure, swollen legs, flushed face, dizziness, and even post-meal fatigue. Subtle symptoms, easy to ignore, but that the body uses as a way to ask for help. Therefore, it is essential to understand that garlic is not the villain. The mistake is in the combination and the frequency. When you consume garlic in the wrong way, day after day, it doesn't intoxicate you all at once. It intoxicates you little by little, in silence, corroding the vitality of the cells and stealing the lightness of the circulation. In the next few minutes, I'm going to show you why this reaction is even more dangerous after 60 years, and how aging transforms your body into a more vulnerable terrain for these chemical interactions. You will understand why something that used to be good for you can now harm you, and what needs to change from today to recover the balance of your circulation and your energy. Why the risk increases after 60 years. From the age of 60, the body enters a phase of silent transition. It no longer reacts with the same speed, nor does it defend itself with the same strength. The metabolism slows down, the vessels lose elasticity, and the liver, which is the great filter of the organism, begins to operate with less capacity. Everything that was previously processed with ease now requires more time, more energy, and more effort from the cells. It is in this scenario that wrong food combinations, such as garlic with milk or vegetable oil, become truly dangerous. The elderly body lives in a constant biochemical conflict. On the one hand, it still tries to produce enough enzymes and antioxidants to neutralize toxic substances. On the other, it suffers from the natural reduction of glutathione, one of the main liver defense molecules. Without this adequate protection, compounds that would previously be easily eliminated end up circulating in the blood for longer. And when these compounds come from sulfurous and fatty mixtures, such as those we mentioned, they transform into microtoxins that irritate the endothelium and increase blood viscosity. To understand better, imagine a river that, over time, becomes narrower and with less current. The banks begin to accumulate sediments, the flow decreases, and small obstructions form. This is what happens with the blood after 60. It becomes thicker, the wall of the vessels loses elasticity, and the heart needs to exert more force to push it. Now, add to this scenario compounds that stimulate coagulation and inflame the endothelium. The result is a cardiovascular system more vulnerable to hypertension, arrhythmia, angina, and thrombosis, even if the exams still seem normal. Another critical point is the reduction of stomach acidity. Slower and less acidic digestion prevents the complete breakdown of the compounds in garlic and other foods, favoring the formation of gases and sulfur byproducts. These molecules, when they enter the bloodstream, alter the acid-base balance of the body, which interferes with the absorption of minerals such as magnesium and potassium, essential for muscle contraction and heart rate. That's why many elderly people who consume raw garlic in excess or combine it with milk report palpitations, cramps, and a feeling of fluctuating pressure. The aging liver also has less capacity to produce good quality bile, which is essential for digesting fats. Without this adequate bile, the lipids in vegetable oil accumulate more easily and oxidize inside the body. The result is a dangerous cycle: oxidized fat plus sulfur compounds. Chronic low-grade inflammation. This inflammation does not cause immediate pain, but it accelerates the aging of the arteries and makes it difficult to control blood pressure. There is also a factor that is often ignored: continuous use medications, anticoagulants, Antihypertensives, diuretics, and oral hypoglycemic agents are metabolized in the liver by the same enzymes that process the compounds in garlic. When both compete for these enzymes, the metabolism becomes unpredictable. The effect of the medication can be potentiated or reduced, which explains why many patients over 60 present variations in blood pressure or unexpected bleeding, even without altering the dose of the medication. This interaction between food and drug is one of the most neglected causes of medical emergencies in the elderly, and the heart, in turn, feels all this. With advancing age, the cardiac muscle becomes more rigid and sensitive to chemical variations in the blood. Small changes in the balance of sodium, potassium, and calcium can trigger arrhythmias. When the blood becomes more viscous, as happens after the mixture of garlic with oxidized fats, the flow decreases and the heart is forced to work under constant pressure. This repeated effort over the years leads to hypertrophy, cardiac fatigue, and, in some cases, to discrete insufficiencies that only appear in more detailed exams. All this forms a picture that, although invisible in everyday life, slowly undermines vitality. The elderly person feels the body heavy, the sleep irregular, the reasoning slower, and believes that it is just age. But often it is the blood asking for help, cleaner, lighter, less inflamed. In the next few minutes, I'm going to help you recognize the warning signs that the body sends when this overload begins. They are small warnings, some almost imperceptible, that indicate that the liver, the blood, and the heart are suffering from this silent mixture. And the sooner you learn to listen to them, the easier it will be to reverse the process and recover the natural balance of your body. Warning signs that the body sends before a serious problem. The human body is incredibly wise. It never suffers in absolute silence. It just speaks a language that most of us have forgotten how to hear. Before a cardiac, hepatic, or circulatory problem settles in, the body sends signals. Small, subtle, often ignored. But those who learn to interpret them can avoid what many call an unexpected scare. When garlic is consumed in the wrong combination, such as with milk or refined vegetable oils, the chemical reactions we described begin to slowly affect three main systems: the liver, the blood, and the heart. And each of them speaks in a different way. The first to complain is the liver. The poorly metabolized sulfur compounds added to the oxidized fats in the oil or the heavy proteins in the milk cause mild liver irritation. You may not feel pain, but you begin to notice a feeling of abdominal heaviness after meals, slight swelling under the right ribs, or bitterness in the mouth upon waking. These symptoms are signs that the liver is overloaded and cannot filter the blood with the same efficiency. It is also common to notice excess gas, flatulence with a strong odor, and lighter or oily stools, direct reflections of an incomplete digestion of fats. The second system to suffer is the circulatory system. When the blood becomes thicker and more inflammatory, the small arteries begin to narrow. This generates subtle but very specific symptoms. Tingling in the extremities, especially in the tips of the fingers and toes. Cold feet even on hot days. Sudden redness in the face after fatty meals. And that feeling of a hot or throbbing head, which many describe as pressure rising, even if the device still shows normal numbers. These are indications that the microcirculation is compromised, and the heart begins to work under tension. And then comes the tiredness. Not the normal tiredness of everyday life, but a type of fatigue that appears for no reason, even after a reasonable night's sleep. It's as if the whole body became heavier, the thoughts slower, and the vital impulse decreased. This happens because the cells receive less oxygen when the blood is denser. The brain, deprived of adequate nutrition, responds with drowsiness after meals, short memory lapses, and difficulty concentrating. Many elderly people describe this as brain fog and do not associate it with food. But the origin, in many cases, is exactly there. There are also the invisible signs, perceived only with sensitivity. A slight discomfort in the chest that comes and goes, a heart that seems to beat harder at certain times, the body that complains in silence. These signs should not be ignored. In patients over 60, they are often the first warning that the blood is inflamed and that the heart is being forced to pump against a greater resistance than it should. Another common indication is the alteration of blood pressure during the day. You wake up with normal blood pressure, but throughout the morning it rises. without apparent stress. This happens because the body is trying to deal with the slower metabolism of fats and sulfur compounds ingested at breakfast. The release of hormones such as adrenaline and cortisol increases to maintain balance, and this causes sudden blood pressure fluctuations. The kidneys also participate in this silent cycle. When they need to filter a denser and more inflamed blood, they begin to retain fluids. The sign of this is the discrete swelling in the ankles at the end of the day or sock marks on the legs. Many think it is just normal retention, but in reality it is the body signaling that the cardiovascular system is under stress. The important thing is to understand that the body does not want to punish you. It wants to warn you. Each dizziness, each sudden heat, each difficult digestion is an attempt at communication. And when you learn to listen, you begin to notice a pattern. The symptoms appear precisely on the days when you make certain food combinations. This pattern is the key to interrupting the cycle before the problem turns into a diagnosed disease. In the next few minutes, I'm going to show you the reverse path, how to reverse this process and balance the body again. You will understand how to relieve the liver's burden, thin the blood naturally, and recover the energy that seems to have disappeared over time, all in a simple, safe, and scientific way. How to reverse and balance the body naturally. The good news is that the human body, even after 60, still has an incredible capacity for regeneration. It wants to balance itself. It wants to cleanse itself. It wants to return to the natural state of lightness. It just needs you to stop hindering it. And the first step to this is to interrupt the combinations that are intoxicating it. If you usually mix garlic with milk or fry it in vegetable oils, from today, change this routine. Garlic should be used raw or slightly heated and always accompanied by good fats, such as extra virgin olive oil, avocado oil, or a little natural unsalted butter. These fats do not oxidize easily and, unlike refined oils, protect the beneficial compounds in garlic. In addition, they help the body better absorb fat-soluble vitamins A, D, E, and K, which strengthen the heart and improve the elasticity of the arteries. The second step is to give the liver a rest. For at least 7 days, avoid everything that generates overload: fried foods, alcohol, ultra-processed foods, and excess sugar. Replace with fruits rich in antioxidants, such as apple, avocado, and red fruits, which help the liver regenerate. Also include cruciferous vegetables, broccoli, kale, arugula, and watercress, which contain compounds capable of activating the body's natural detoxification enzymes. These foods not only cleanse the blood, but also help the body correctly metabolize the sulfur compounds in garlic, transforming them back into allies. Another powerful measure is the use of garlic in an isolated and strategic way. Instead of mixing it with everything, use it in small quantities, preferably crushed and left to breathe for about 10 minutes before consumption. This simple act allows allicin, the main active compound, to form completely without chemical interferences. You can add it raw over salads, cooked vegetables, or in a drizzle of olive oil over the finished dish. Thus, garlic returns to exert its natural function, thinning the blood, reducing inflammation, and protecting the heart. It is also essential to hydrate the body. Many elderly people underestimate the importance of water, and the dense blood that results from dehydration is one of the greatest enemies of circulation. Drinking 6 to 8 glasses of water a day, preferably at room temperature and outside of meals, helps the blood flow, reduces the heart's effort, and improves renal filtration. Water is the invisible medicine that dilutes toxins and restores vitality to the cells. Another essential point is to strengthen the intestine. A large part of the toxic compounds that accumulate after wrong meals comes from an unbalanced intestine. To reverse this, include natural fermented foods such as kefir, unsweetened yogurt, and sauerkraut. They restore the intestinal flora and help to correctly break down the sulfur compounds in garlic, avoiding gases and secondary inflammations. And we cannot forget about movement. The elderly body needs to move to cleanse the blood. Light walks after meals, stretches, and deep breaths accelerate venous return and help the liver and kidneys work better. Sedentarism is what transforms small inflammations into chronic diseases. Moving is giving voice to the circulation. It is making the blood sing again. But the most important point is food awareness. Stop following miraculous recipes and internet advice without scientific basis. Remember, what heals one person can harm another, especially when the body already carries a history of blood pressure, diabetes, or medication use. Before adding any new mixture, ask yourself, can my liver handle this? Does my body need this now? This simple questioning is what separates lasting health from silent self-intoxication. In the next few minutes, I'm going to show you a practical daily protocol that I apply with my own patients. A simple step-by-step that relieves the liver, improves circulation, and restores energy to the body, without miraculous remedies, only with regularity, common sense, and respect for the natural rhythm of life. The practical daily protocol to protect your heart and circulation. Over the years, I have learned that it is not the most expensive medicine, nor the fashionable supplement that guarantees good health. What really transforms the body, even after 60, is daily discipline. Regularity is the true medicine, and the body appreciates when it finds a predictable, clean, and gentle rhythm. The protocol that I apply with my patients is simple, but powerful. It does not require major changes, only constancy. Think of it as a morning and evening ritual that teaches the body to function in harmony again. In the morning, wake up the blood. As soon as you wake up, before any food, drink a glass of warm water with a few drops of lemon. This stimulates the liver and helps to neutralize the excess acidity generated during the night. Then, wait about 15 minutes before having breakfast. Avoid the mistake of consuming bread, margarine, and black coffee as soon as you wake up. This combination overloads the liver and thickens the blood right at the beginning of the day. Prefer a light and functional breakfast. A slice of whole wheat bread with extra virgin olive oil and crushed raw garlic. Let the garlic rest for 10 minutes before using. A fruit rich in potassium, such as banana or papaya, and a glass of water at room temperature. This simple exchange reduces morning inflammation and prepares the heart for the day. In the mid-morning, the liver's pause. Avoid snacking on sweets, cookies, or sugary drinks. The liver needs a clean interval between meals to metabolize toxins. If you feel hungry, opt for nuts, chestnuts, or an apple. These foods stabilize blood sugar and protect the vessels. At lunch, the clean energy meal. Prefer grilled white meats, fish rich in omega-3, and many colorful vegetables. Use garlic and olive oil as seasoning, never fried in vegetable oil. The ideal is to sauté the garlic quickly in olive oil over low heat, just to release aroma, without letting it darken. Accompany with brown rice, steamed vegetables, and a portion of bitter greens, arugula, watercress, or kale. These greens stimulate bile and help in the digestion of fats, relieving the burden on the liver. In the mid-afternoon, the heart's breath. Take a short 5-minute break. Sit with your spine straight, close your eyes, and breathe deeply 3 times. This simple breathing practice increases oxygenation, relaxes the vessels, and reduces blood pressure. The tranquil mind makes the heart beat in a more orderly way, and this is physiology, not philosophy. At dinner, the light meal that purifies. Here is the secret of many patients who have recovered energy. Have dinner early, preferably until 7 p.m. Avoid heavy meats and fatty foods. Opt for a light soup with raw garlic, added at the end of preparation, to preserve its active compounds, and easily digestible vegetables such as carrot, zucchini, and spinach. If you want a calming touch, add a drizzle of olive oil and a little turmeric, a natural anti-inflammatory that works in synergy with garlic. Before sleeping, the metabolic silence. Avoid any food in the 2 hours before sleep. Drink only water or a mild chamomile tea. The liver performs most of the detoxification between 10 p.m. and 2 a.m., and eating late prevents this process. Sleeping on an empty stomach is one of the simplest ways to lower blood pressure and improve sugar metabolism. With this protocol, the body returns to a natural state of efficiency. The blood becomes more fluid, the liver works without overload, and the heart finds a more stable rhythm. In a few weeks, most patients report improvement in disposition, less swelling, deeper sleep, and a feeling of mental clarity that they had not felt for years. And perhaps most importantly, the body begins to respond better to its own signals. Digestion becomes more predictable. Blood pressure stabilizes, and the small alerts that were previously ignored disappear, all because the blood returned to flow with lightness, and the heart finally returned to breathe in peace. In the next few minutes, I want to leave you with a final message, not just as a doctor, but as someone who has seen hundreds of lives change when they understood what it really means to take care of the heart. And this message is not about fear, it is about awareness, because the heart, when heard, never deceives. Final message from Dr. Hale. When the heart speaks, the body listens. There is a truth that I have learned in more than 3 decades of medicine. The human body is an orchestra, and the heart is the conductor. Each beat is a silent order that keeps the blood flowing, the cells alive, and the mind awake. But when this conductor begins to tire, the whole symphony becomes disorganized. The problem is that, in the rush of everyday life, most people only perceive the sound when silence arrives, and the silence of the heart is the most dangerous of all. What we have seen so far is not just a matter of food. It is about respect for the rhythm of life. Garlic, milk, oil. None of this is, by itself, an enemy. What makes us sick is the imbalance. It is the overconfidence in what is popular and the lack of attention to what is physiological. The body has limits, and after 60, it asks us for more wisdom than strength. Many of my patients come to the office with the same look. Tired, discouraged, certain that aging is synonymous with loss. But it is not. Aging is a rare opportunity to perceive what the body has always tried to say. It is the moment to replace haste with listening, guilt with awareness, and